You have something bothering you. What do you really do? You have something bothering you. What do you really do? With our instinct, we try to solve the problem. And once we can't solve the problem, we begin to react to the problem. Now, solving a problem is not a bad thing, right? Solving any problem is not a bad thing. But the trouble is when you really can't solve that problem. And then you realize you can't solve the problem. And then you begin to react to the problem. You don't want to have to react to a problem. And you may wonder, why don't you want to react to a problem? Is not reaction going to help you, in solving the problem anyway? No, reaction usually becomes erratic. So today, just pardon me. So today, we're going to be looking at how do you stop living in the survival mode. And what's the survival mode? It's more or less you not being able to control certain things, all right? And you find out that it's like things are spiraling out of control for you, and then we begin to panic. Once that happens, we usually begin to panic. You don't really want to be in that mood where you are panicking. That's just the truth. You don't want to find yourself in that place where you are panicking. And the reason is simple. When we panic, we tend to make lots of mistakes. I want you to concentrate. The topic is something that a lot of people suffer from or deal with, in a cycle. It happens and stops, and then happens and stops. Well, we think it stops, but it keeps on going on, and then it's like quieter, and then it goes heightened, and we don't notice. But you see, the resulting feeling, the emotions behind it, is what we don't ever forget. It's a painful emotion where we begin to cycle up on ourselves. I read something recently about a snake that sometimes they get into a kind of frenzy. Maybe something touches their skin or cuts them, and then instinctively they turn back to bite the thing. Then they start swallowing themselves. They swallow their tail and then begin to swallow themselves, until they choke on it. And if you leave them long enough, they die. So people that rear snakes will go there and disturb them and break their brains out of that cycle. It's such like that for human beings when we begin to feel pain and we begin to self-inflict, and then you begin to think, oh, it's your fault. You've done something wrong. All right. So as I delve into that today, this is my disclaimer. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your health advisor. I'm not nothing like that. But I'm just sharing with you what I've learned, what I've experienced, and other people will also come share with you. So please, if you have such needs for your finances, for all those things, your health, your mental health, please approach your practitioners, okay? So let me start with this question. I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time you went to bed feeling genuinely satisfied with your day? Like Noel shared with us earlier, he said, today has been hectic, the weekend has been hectic, and quite strenuous. So when that happens, I know some people don't go to bed feeling happy because the stress is just way too much and then you didn't conclude some things. But for you, when genuinely did you go to bed and you were feeling satisfied, as in genuinely satisfied with your day? Not that you were tired so you couldn't think about it, but you were relieved it was over. You were happy that that day was over. When was the last time you had that? But this is the thing. If it took you maybe 3 seconds or more to answer that, to think about it, then it means this session is for you. Because if I ask you, what was the last time you bought something you liked, you would remember. What was the last meal you had that was really impressive on you? You would remember. You remember where you had the meal. Some of you remember the color of clothing you were wearing and the way the place smelled and the taste of the food. So whenever you take more than 5 seconds for this kind of question, it means you need this session. I could even argue this with you, that we're not alone when it comes to being stuck in the survival mode. We're not alone. It's something I personally had been in that for a long time. All right? In fact, the feeling of being perpetually behind, despite being perpetually busy, is the defining challenge of our generation. I could argue that feeling of being perpetually behind, despite being perpetually busy, it's like a defining challenge of this generation. We are busy, but we feel behind almost all the time. And we've given it a name, and that's survival mode, all right? Survival mode doesn't mean when you are down, so you are surviving. No. It's a mode where it doesn't mean you're not breaking even in your business. It doesn't mean you're not getting promotions. It does not mean you're not doing fine when it comes to your career or your family. But it's a perpetual motion where you are very busy and yet you feel you are perpetually behind. So there's no satisfaction. There's no real satisfaction of what you're doing. It's mentally draining, emotionally draining. All right. And that's what we're dealing with today. Now, what does survival mode really look like? All right, what does it really look like? This is what it looks like. Because most people think survival mode means you are struggling financially or you're going through a crisis. That's what most people think. But that's not what it means. Like I said, it's a subtler, more insidious version of it. Okay? Let me describe with these 6 signs. Now, you will tell me whether it's familiar or not, okay? Now, people who are in survival mode, they wake up and before their feet hit the floor, their brain is already running through everything they didn't finish yesterday. Listen attentively. Before their feet hit the floor, their brain is already running through all the things they did not finish yesterday. Okay? They're busy all day, but by evening, they can't clearly name 3 things they actually completed. They write the same goals at the start of every week as their to-dos, and by Thursday, those goals feel like a distant memory. Also, they get some burst of motivation or energy, where they start everything. They reorganize everything. So, okay, I'm going to start it afresh, so that way it's going to be successful. Then they make new plans, and then within days or weeks, they are back in the same loop. They're back with that same loop. Okay? They're back in that same loop. They feel mentally scattered, like there's a browser open in their head with 47 tabs running, and none of them are loading properly. When you open your system and you have 47 tabs, and none of them is open. You click on this, it's not showing what's there. Click on this, loading. Click on this, server down. Click on this, response time is too late. That's how they feel. They have ideas that are not loading. Now, if this is you, congrats, you're here. But there's something very important I want you to understand. This is not laziness. When people tell us this, normally we say, oh, you're lazy, or you tell yourself you are lazy. I used to tell myself I'm lazy all the time. I used to say that to myself. But until I found that it's not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline either. The second thought is to think, oh, you're not disciplined. If you're disciplined, you can get something started and you can get it completed. And you're not going to be bogged down by other things that you are thinking about. But see, this is not, laziness is not indiscipline. It's not also a character flaw, It's not like that person has a character flaw. No. That is a nervous system under chronic low-grade stress. This mode, these characteristics, this behavioral exposition, this diagnosis is that of a nervous system under chronic low-grade stress. It's operating in a mode that was designed for short-term survival emergencies. When you are in danger, your brain takes over. Your mind takes over and tries to get you out of that danger, floods your mind with those ideas that can take you. You read routes, you read how you can climb, how you can run, everything quickly, adrenaline pumps, and then you go because for a short time, and then you recover later. It's like being asked to run a long-term, purposeful, productive life with an emergency response system. That's not going to work. The emergency response system is just for a short time. Now you are asked to run that on a long-term, purposeful, productive life. And that's where we have the mental problems that come with it, the challenge, the weight that comes with it. It literally cannot do both at the same time. No, you can't do both at the same time. Your nervous system can't handle both at the same time. Okay. Now, there's a science to this. Okay. And let me share that science with us. Just a short science, a short version of it. When your brain receives stress, whether it's like a lion chasing you or an overflowing inbox, like your email, or financial uncertainty, it activates what we call the stress response. It floods your body with cortisol. Okay, it narrows your focus to immediate threats, so you can see a tunnel vision. You can see certain things. You forget about other things. Just focus on that immediate threat. So it suppresses long-term planning and creativity and deep thinking. That's what your mind does to allow you to focus on the threat at hand and survive that at force. That is brilliant when you're trying to survive a lion's attack. Right? That's brilliant. But it is catastrophic for building a business, for raising a family, for advancing a career and living with tension all at the same time. It's catastrophic. It doesn't work for that. And here is the part nobody tells you. You don't have to be in a crisis to be in survival mode. Okay? You just have to feel like there is always too much and never enough time. That's all it takes to be in survival mode. You may not be in a crisis, but once you feel that there's always too much and never enough time, you just snap into survival mode. That feeling, sustained over weeks and months, is what keeps you stuck. Not your circumstances, not your state. What keeps you stuck is that feeling when it's sustained over the weeks and the months. And you can look at this at your screen right now. It's talking about the stress response. The suppressed thinking comes in, and then there's an hidden trigger. That trigger is what brings you to that place. Okay? And your thinking is suppressed. That's why you find it difficult to solve problems, even though you can solve them at some other times. You find yourself thinking over and over. I've experienced that practically. Things I do at a whim. Once you're in that mode, you reason and reason, and it's so difficult to solve that problem. But let's look at what will change our system, the reframe of this. This is what's actually possible, because this is where everything changes. This is what we want to achieve. I want you to listen attentively to this. Because I've worked with people who seem to have it all together from the outside, and we're quietly drowning on the inside. I've had times of talking, coaching with people, and I will be surprised when they open up. And I'm like, wow, I thought you had all of that under lock and key. And I've seen those same people, within weeks, they'll shift from the frantic and scattered to calm and consistent. Not because their circumstances changed overnight. No, the issues they were dealing with were still there, all right? But because they changed what they were managing. Now, here's a distinction that will change how you think about life as well, about your own life. On one side, you will see that they are managing tasks. On the other side, you see what happens when you're managing the state. Most productivity advice tells you to manage your task better. Productivity, I also teach productivity. Say manage your times, your tasks, block out time, don't multitask, all of those things. Use apps, use softwares, simplify, all those things. We tell you to make better lists and all of that. But that advice is not wrong, okay? It's just not complete. It's an incomplete advice. So I'm completing the advice today. Because if your internal state is on survival mode, no app, no software, no planner, no 5 a.m. alarm is going to save you. Once you get into that survival mode, nothing like that will save you. What you need to manage now is your state, not your tasks, not your to-do list. It's your state, the mental state, your emotional state, your energetic state. That's what you need to handle. And because here's the truth. A calm mind operated on a simple plan will always outperform a scattered mind operating on a perfect plan. I'll do that again. A calm mind that's operating on a very simple plan. It will always outperform a scattered mind that's operating on a perfect plan, on an opened plan. All right? Always. Always.